The 1950s were a time when the world was getting back on its feet after the war. It was also a time when rich people started spending more money on luxury items than ever before. And it wasn't just boats or castles, also cars, but not all cars. These were rolling works of art that cost as much as or more than luxury villas, handmade, only for the very wealthy, and wrapped in stunning elegance. We'll look at the 12 most expensive cars from the 1950s in this video. The kind of cars that are easy to tell right away. They were never meant for regular people. And if you think classic cars are just for nostalgia, wait until the last car on this list. It might surprise you even more than a modern hypercar. 56 Gullwing Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. This sports coupe, which came out in the middle of the 1950s, was known for its gullwing doors and its shocking price tag, around $7,500 when it came out, and more than $85,000 today. And right now it could be worth more than $1.5 million to collectors. The 300 SL Gullwing was the first production car to have direct fuel injection. This let its 3.0L inline six-engine make up to 215 horsepower, which let the car go over 160 mph, which was almost impossible at the time. Its lightweight aluminum and magnesium body and tubular space frame made it impossible to have regular doors. This is why the famous upward opening design exists. But here's the thing. The swing axle rear suspension made it hard to handle at high speeds. This car needed a lot of skill to drive. The 300 SL Gullwing isn't just a car. It has a design that was ahead of its time, engineering that was ahead of its time, and only about 1,400 coups were ever made. It's a work of art in mechanics. People often call it the first supercar in the world. Brougham for the 1957 Cadillac Eldorado. The Cadillac Eldorado Brougham was the most luxurious American car ever made, while the Mercedes 300 SL was known for its speed and new ideas. It cost $13,074 when it first came out in 1957, which was more than a Rolls-Royce at the time and the most expensive car sold in the US. That's more than $140,000 today when you take inflation into account. But the value of a collector's item can be anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000, depending on how well it is kept. The price of the Eldorado Brougham wasn't the only thing that made it special. Cadillac was brave enough to include it. A body made of stainless steel, a roof made of mirror-polished steel, self-leveling air suspension, rear suicide doors, and built-in perfume atomizers, silver cocktail tumblers, and chrome vanity mirrors, all the usual features. There were only 400 hand-built 1957 Eldorado Brahms made in Detroit, and each one took twice as long to put together as a regular Cadillac. It wasn't about making money. Cadillac was saying, "We're the best in the business." The Brougham is still thought of as the best example of 1950s interior design, when cars were more than just ways to get around. They were also rolling salons for the rich. The 1954 Ferrari 375 America. There were only 12 coups made, and they were only for very wealthy clients. They had an impact. The King of Saudi Arabia, Italian politicians, and European business tycoons were all buyers. The car cost about $17,000 when it was new, which is about $180,000 now. But at auction, a 375 America can sell for $3 to $4 million. What made it so valuable? It all began with the 4.5L V12 engine that Enzo Ferrari himself oversaw the development of. In 1954, it made about 296 horsepower, which was an incredible amount of power. It was one of the fastest cars on the planet at the time, with a top speed of almost 160 mph. Experts like Pin and Farina and Vignale made the bodywork to fit each buyer's unique style. Every inch of the inside was a work of art, with fine leather, Jagger gauges, and real wood trim. 1956 Phantom IV by Rolls-Royce. This is the only Rolls-Royce model ever made that was only sold to kings and queens and heads of state, no exceptions. Queen Elizabeth II, the Shah of Iran, and the King of Saudi Arabia were all among the lucky few. Between 1950 and 1956, only 18 Phantom IV units were made, and each one was made by hand and cost a lot of money, because the people who went there didn't care about money. At the time, the estimated cost was between $15,000 and $20,000, or more than $200,000 today. The current value of the collection is over $2 million. It had a 5.7L inline-8 engine that gave it power. It was powerful, but it was so smooth that it was almost silent. Famous coach builders like Molina or Hooper often did the bodywork. Made to fit the tastes of royalty, they could be over 20 feet long and have interiors that rivaled those of first-class cabins. This car wasn't built to impress with speed, but with presence. It wasn't a vehicle. It was a symbol of power. 1955 Chrysler Imperial Crown Limousine by Gear. Only 132 units were produced between 1954 and 1956, most of which were delivered to U.S. government agencies, foreign embassies, or heads of state. Each cost around $15,000 at the time, over $160,000 today, with surviving examples fetching up to $700,000 in today's collector market. Ghia, one of Italy's most famous design firms, turned the Imperial into a work of art by hand that had an elongated body, fine chrome details, hand-stitched leather, real wood trim, and features like phones and privacy curtains on board. It felt more like a private study than a car inside. This car didn't show up in front of the crowd. It came after the official welcome, silent, stately, and commanding. People stop what they're doing when they see this car go by. The Bentley Ripe Continental came out in 1952. The Bentley R-Type Continental, which came out in 1952, shocked the world because it was not only luxurious, but also the fastest car in Europe at the time. There were only 208 of these made between 1952 and 1955. It cost about $7,500 for each one, which is almost $18,000 now or more than $190,000. These cars are worth between $1 and $2 million US on the collector market. The aerodynamic design by H.J. Mulliner is what made it stand out. A low roofline, a long body, a sharply raked windscreen, and smooth curves that look like lemon races. The R-Type Continental was a grand tourer that weighed more than 1.7 tons and could go over 120 mph, which was an amazing speed for its time. It had a 4.6L inline-6 engine, a 4-speed manual gearbox, and a rear axle ratio that was tuned just right for highway driving. The cabin was a beautiful place with Connolly leather seats, walnut wood veneer, and classic Smith's gauges. The Bentley R-Type Continental was not made for showy rich people. It was made for people who knew that speed and sophistication could work together perfectly in one amazing machine. Cadillac Series 62 Eldorado Convertible from 1953. Cadillac didn't just come out with a new model in 1953, it changed the meaning of American luxury. The Cadillac Series 62 Eldorado Convertible was the car that had to do that job. That year, it was the most expensive and exclusive convertible Cadillac made. It first came out with a price tag of $7,750, which was more than the cost of a middle-class home at the time and is almost $85,000 today. Only 532 of these toys were made, so they are very rare for the very rich and famous in Hollywood. Its daring look included a dramatic wraparound panoramic windscreen, a body that was low to the ground, and flowing curves that screamed glam. It was also one of the first cars to come with power steering and brakes as standard features. A 5.4 4L V8 engine with about 210 horsepower and a hydromatic automatic gearbox, made for a ride that was as smooth as floating on air. Dwight D. Eisenhower chose the Eldorado Convertible as the presidential parade car for a reason. It stood for America after the war, when people were sure of themselves, doing well, and proud of their wealth. Convertible with 2 gears from 1958. The dual gear was a rare combination of Dodge body and styling with Carrozzeria gears, handcrafted chassis, and powertrain. It was a beautiful mix of American muscle and Italian style that cost about $7,500 in 1958, which is more than $85,000 today. There were only 117 of these made, and most of them went to famous people and important people. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and Lucille B. Each one was made to order, with the buyer choosing the paint color, upholstery, and chrome accents. It had a 5.2 2L Dodge FF8 engine that made more than 230 horsepower. It also had an automatic gearbox and a finely tuned suspension that made the ride smooth and comfortable. The dual gear wasn't as flashy as a Ferrari or as regal as a Rolls-Royce. It was a sign of understated luxury, the car for people who were already famous, not for people who wanted to be. 1955, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SC Roadster. This luxury convertible came out in 1955 and went up against the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud. At the time, it cost about $13,000, which is more than $140,000 today, and collectors value it at between $1.2 and $1.5 million. It is one of the rarest Mercedes cars from the 1950s because only 53 Roadsters were made. Each one was put together by hand over hundreds of hours, and the level of detail was comparable to that of today's most expensive cars. A Bosch mechanical fuel injection system powered a 3.0L inline-six engine that made about 175 horsepower. Not too much, but just right for smooth, dignified driving. The 4-speed manual gearbox, separate rear suspension, and big drum brakes made for a smooth ride like a yacht. The cabin was a haven of luxury inside. Real leather, hand-picked walnut wood trim, classic gauges, and chrome details that look nice. It's no surprise that European diplomats and aristocrats chose it as their car, a car that whispers style instead of yelling for attention. The 1950 Ghia 175 Saoutchik Roadster. The Ghia 175 Saoutchik Roadster is the only car that should be called UT Couture on 4 wheels. French car company Ghia built it in 1950, and famous coach builder Jacques Saoutchik designed it. This machine combined mechanical engineering with art that could be seen. There were only about 18 Ghia 1750s made, and only 3 of them were roadsters with Saoutchik bodies. Each one was unique and not exactly like the others. At the time, it was thought to be worth $25,000, which is more than $280,000 today. These cars can sell for more than $5 million at auction. The over-the-top Art Deco meets Baroque design, with swooping chrome accents, fender skirts shaped like wings, and interiors finished in hand-stitched leather, crystal trim, and exotic woods is what really blows my mind. Every detail was a sign of theatrical style. The 4.5L V12 engine gave the car about 160 horsepower, but speed was never the goal. People wanted to buy the Ghia 175 as soon as it left the factory. Made for people who didn't just want to be seen, but also wanted to own something that no one else could copy. Cadillac Eldorado Seville from 1959. The 1959 Cadillac Eldorado Seville is the best example of the flashy, all-American way of life in the 1950s. It wasn't just a way to get around. It had big tail fins, 2 bullet-shaped tail lights, and a shiny chrome grille. It was a style statement. When it first came out, it cost $741, which is more than $75,000 today. You could get a high-end luxury coupe with all the bells and whistles for that price. It came with power-adjustable seats, air conditioning, power windows, and a hi-fi sound system as standard. In 1959, about 2,000 Seville units were made. This made it not only expensive, but also hard to find. The car had a 6.4L V8 engine that made 345 horsepower and a hydromatic automatic gearbox that made driving smooth and powerful. But the Eldorado Seville didn't impress with how fast it went. It did this by being there. The car looked like a sculpture on wheels. It was long, low, wide, and shiny in the sun. It was in movies and music videos from Hollywood. and now people collect it like a big piece of jewelry on wheels. 1954 Disco Volante Alfa Romeo, 1900 C52. You can tell this car is different just by its name. Disco Volante means flying saucer in Italian. And yes, it's one of the strangest cars ever made, but it's still legal to drive on the road. Carrozzeria Touring designed the Alfa Romeo. 1900 C52 Disco Volante, which was built by Alfa Romeo's racing division, famous for its lightweight Superleggera construction. There were only 5 units made between 1952 and 1954, and they came in both coupe and roadster styles. Each one is now worth more than $2 million and is rarely seen at auctions. The way it looks is very aerodynamic, a smooth, oval body, wheels that are almost completely covered, and a tail that is rounded and looks like it's ready to take off. The engine is a 2.0L DOC inline-4 that makes about 158 horsepower, which lets the car go almost 140 Wattkerns, a great thing for a flying saucer from the 1950s. We don't just see pricey cars when we look back at this list. We can see a time when design, engineering, and ambition were pushed to their limits. These weren't just tools. They were personal statements that showed class, culture, and desire. Each car was a step forward in design, new ideas, and the desire to go beyond the ordinary. It's your turn now. Which car did you like the most? Do you like British style, Italian romance, or American style that is bold? Please leave a comment below. We want to hear your stories and ideas. If you like this trip, please like, subscribe, and share this video with other people who love classic cars. These cars may cost a lot, but their stories are worth more than money.